Hi, welcome back to CultureCast. My name is Mariana Franco.
Hi, I'm Eileen Fan.
I'm Mariah Garjeda.
I'm Olivia Wasmer.
And I'm Ray. And today we're covering Alfonso Cuarón's visual masterpiece, Roma, released in 2018.
This is a Netflix film, and it's not what I expected when I first started watching.
I thought it was going to be a little bit boring at first because it's 2 hours long and in black and white, but I think that those elements really gave the film a beautifully emotional take on the plot.
Yeah, the director and producer did outstanding work in developing such a simple plot into a visual aesthetic. In fact, Roma is the first Netflix film to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The film is intricately depicted, and there's beauty in the details. Because, the writer Alfonso Cuarón, he is adapting from a personal narrative from his life in Mexico City in 1971.
Yeah, Cleo, the main protagonist of the narrative, was inspired by a domestic worker at Cuarón's childhood. Surprisingly, Yalitza Aparicio, who plays Cleo, barely had any actor experience prior to the film.
Wow, that is impressive. And Cleo is one of two domestic workers who helps an upper-middle-class family couple by the names of Antonio and Sofia take care of their 4 children. Complications soon arise, though, in the family when the husband who is the breadwinner runs away with his mistress, leaving a pregnant Cleo and the wife to take on a new life together, where the bonds of love and family are beautifully portrayed.
Production for the film began in 2016 and took 108 days to shoot in order. It was produced by Cuarón's film company Esperanto Filmo and Participant Media.
Yeah, interesting. Was the film only produced by Cuarón?
No, the film was also co-produced by Gabriela Rodriguez and Nicolas Silas.
Okay, the film was also shot in sequence, which means that the scenes were filmed from a variety of distance, such as close-up, medium, and wide shoot. This style of filming allowed for Cuarón to make his film seem more realistic and dramatic.
And what is brilliant and different about Cuarón's production of the film is that he challenged his cast and crew by giving out the script time sensitively. Well, simply put, he did not give out the whole script at once.
Interesting. I also learned that the sets were built through details using add-as-you-go type of process. Cuarón described it as an archaeological search. As more memories came up, the more details that they added.
What is significant about that in the film?
Well, extensive research was done properly to replicate the Mexican homes of this period. For example, the house consisted of real tile, brick, and plaster. Also, 80% of the objects were real from Cuarón's family and filled the house, even in places not noticeable to the audience, such as drawers.
In fact, the movie is called Roma because Cuarón lived on a quiet side street in an area known as Roma Sud or South Roma. When he was young, Roma Sud was less affluent and more run down than the northern half of the neighborhood, Roma Norte.
Wow, that seemed like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But not everything is real. Why would Cuarón choose to do that?
Cuarón wanted authenticity of the time. He simply didn't want to look like they were trying hard to recreate the 70s and wanted the time to feel real. Cuarón specifically only used areas in Mexico City that had barely changed since his childhood.
Cuarón really seemed to want his film to feel real. Even special effects master Nico Silas created burning forest fire with 3 connected gasoline tank trucks and flame retardant.
Yeah, and he does a great job in that. He portrays the political tensions of the country so well, too. He shows the value of Mexican culture and without having it completely overtake the simplicity of Cleo's narrative.
Yeah, and the political lens is portrayed through an emotional portrait of domestic strife and social hierarchy that contributed to the political turmoil of the 70s.
That's right. One key moment in the film craft an explosion in violence. There is an intersectionality between Cleo preparing for birth of her child by shopping for crepes and the scene shifting toward protests outside.
Yeah, agreeing with you, the scene can be dated back to the specific event in Mexico history. Actually, the scene denotes the Corpus Christi massacre as Cleo's water is breaking and the father of the child breaks into the store holding both a gun and a Love is Remembering Your First Kiss shirt.
During the 70s, Mexico's tension was due to the shift in politics. Between authoritarianism and democracy, Roma depicts Mexico in a moment when the tensions created by the institutional Revolutionary Party had resorted to electoral fraud to hold on to its power.
The Halcones, they were a group of poor teenagers and young people that were trained by the CIA to commit all of these massacres, actually, and Fermin, Baby's father, is one of the people that take part in this. And a very neat detail I think that we can all notice and in this scene is that in the earlier scenes when they're all training, we can see a CIA operative supervising the entire session.
Yeah, to continue, the Corpus Christi massacre shown in the scene shows when the tensions had reached an absolute breaking point. Roma captures Mexico when violence was making its way into society, as the government in control during the campaign perpetrated massacres, rapes, and destruction of entire villages in order to destroy both the armed and legal opposition.
Alright, in 1971, the youth in Mexico City experienced a summer of street protests against the government repression. The scene in Roma delineates the events of June 10th as thousands of students gathered in the Street Culture Square in Mexico City's Tlaco housing complex.
As we see in this scene, there were government snipers opening fire into crowds of students, killing dozens of students in what came to be known today as the Corpus Christi massacre.
Cuarón shows the political tension through a more personal lens, rather than a generalization of context. We can see how it affects Cleo and her child directly, and how characters of the story we're introduced to before take part in the political turmoil.
Also, I think the juxtaposition between the childish connotation of innocence in Furman's shirt while he holds a gun towards the future mother of his child is a powerful image depicting gender roles and a sense of foreshadowing towards the fact that their baby will be stillborn.
Yeah, the camera and the scene choreography is truly beautiful, and it truly stands out too because Cuarón, he arrived in Mexico City weeks after, and he closed off all the streets so he could film in the same exact streets where the massacre occurred and killed 120 people. So the adaptation is in fact like the exact replica of everything.
That's a very cool way he did that, but also very sad. And that was an interesting take on the film. But although this film can also be viewed through the feminist and gender theory lens, first off, the film Roma depicts its characters as following the traditional gender roles.
Yeah, and as to be expected, we see the film display a lot of toxic masculinity, and the men are demonized, whereas the women have to take care of the children, and they're shown through more of a loving lens too. And we can see the women, such as Cleo and the wife, play the benevolent role of a doting caretaker, while the men, they express violence through words and ideas.
However, the film does an excellent job of challenging gender roles in many situations. For instance, the role of woman is called into question when the mother slaps her son. This scene goes against how women should be, caring, gentle, and nurturing. The woman as a caregiver is challenged here. It shows that women can show aggression and be violent, which are typically seen as male traits.
That's right. Another prime example of confronting gender norm is during the scene where women and children are watching men train and seem impressed by their skills. Their teacher says, "You can be a warrior," to the men, which add to the idea of what masculinity is and what it should be. The teacher tells them to do a certain pose with their eyes closed. All the men appear to struggle with it, but Cleo, she's shown calmly doing it, which represents, for the first time in the film, the women are capable of doing what the men do.
But even though the women are portrayed as challenging stereotypes in a few ways, some still remain.
That's right. This still is demonstrative of one of the still prevalent stereotypes. The younger brother is shown looking down and disappointed in himself after his older brother calls him a little sissy. And this shows that he has been girl-like by not pretending to die when his little brother shot him while they were playing with toy guns. The older brother is seen walking away because the younger one did not follow his expectations of masculine behavior. This then causes the younger brother to give in and play dead as he feels that he has done something wrong. This is obviously demeaning to women and demonstrates that being like a girl is seen as a bad and undesirable thing.
That's true. Gender roles is a great aspect to look at this film. Roma is a multifaceted and nuanced film. Difference in social classes and races is another point to interpret this movie. Earlier in the movie, when the master of the house, Antonio, is back home, he drives an expensive Ford car, listen to elegant classical music, and smoking some cigarette. All those visuals are highlighting his affluence and high status. In contrast, Cleo listened to some Mexican songs in her little radio when her doing laundry. And she opens the gate and holds the dog for the master, in which emphasizing her lower status as a housemaid.
Yeah, also in addition, Cleo's position as a maid seems lower than everyone else in the house. The scene in which Cleo cleans up the dog species implies that a maid works not only for the family, but also for the dog.
Moreover, throughout the film, the family treating Cleo as a family member seems paradoxical.
Yeah, we can see that in the scene where the family is watching TV together. Cleo picks up the dirty dishes and she attempts to be part of the family, and even one of the kids puts their arm over her. But again, we see that role of dominance as they're all sitting on the couch and she's sitting on the floor with the cushion. And then she also has to abide to the commands and fetch the doctor a cup of tea. And again, that accentuation is a reminder of her role as a maid, whose job is to serve the family instead of being part of the family.
Later in the film, when Cleo tells the mother she's pregnant and Furman is gone, Sophia treats her like they're friends and family, and not like an employer and an employee. Sophia hugs and comforts Cleo and takes her to the doctors, and this time Sophia treats her without being condescending. Sophia sympathizes with Cleo since their situations are similar and both men have left them with their babies.
That's right. Another vital scene depicting the difference in social classes and race are the two distinct celebrations of Christmas and New Year. Cleo goes downstairs with her friend, also a domestic worker, Bernita. So upstairs and downstairs delineate two dissimilar worlds where doubling events are taking place. So upstairs, the upper class black people celebrating their Christmas and New Year party with Western music played from a record player. They dance, drink, and laugh. The embellishments are more luxurious with animals, placement, and large Christmas tree. Their drinks and utensils are more fine and fancy, and the chandelier makes the room very bright.
Yeah, also downstairs, the lower class servants are in a crowded, toddy basement. Dogs, chickens, and geese are running around in front of the entrance downstairs. People dress in traditional Mexican costumes and wear traditional hats. There are musicians playing guitar and violin. The servants also dance, drink, and laugh. Their Christmas and New Year decorations are simpler and humbler, and their drinks and utensils are more plain.
And while watching the film, I noticed that the entire movie reflected a transformation in Mexican culture. Immigration, modernization, and urbanization began to seep into Mexico City.
Yeah, I mean, the government was making changes at the time. They were taking a lot of land in order to meet the urbanization, and it upset many of the poorer Mexicans. And we can see Cleo and her mother when their land is taken. It's shown along with the scenes of the protest.
Also, not to mention that subcultures within Mexico were explored. Cleo and her friend are both from a village called Oaxaca, where they speak Mextec. Both girls moved to Mexico City to seek employment, where they adapted to speaking Spanish.
And starting at the beginning of the movie, there's a scene Cleo is cleaning and carrying a small radio that plays Mexican music. Although this scene was not important, I felt like I was in the movie, immersed with her culture and the regularity of her life.
In big cities such as Mexico City, the environment can be really chaotic and oftentimes dangerous. Similarly, when I go to Guatemala in Guatemala City, the city has a very similar characteristics to Mexico City. And when Cleo was waiting for her date outside the movies, I thought the street vendors and loud music were perfect in reflecting the true cultures of big cities like Mexico City.
Yeah, and something I was really shocked about was the normalization of gun culture in Mexico. I know Mexico legalized guns, however, from the clip, I was surprised to see children exposed to them in such a close manner. Similarly, the culture of alcohol. I mean, I know alcohol is popular in Mexico, and I think the film clearly showed that.
Yes, overall, Cuarón outdid himself with this production. The intricate visual aesthetic and the socio-economic political lens provides value to the message of the film.
Roma is a black and white classic with an intrinsic nature, which we loved. Anyways, thank you for listening to our input.
Bye, everyone, and come back next week when we analyze another foreign piece of literature. Bye!